Good morning, Wes.
Hey, man.
End of year,
Mm-hmm.
December 28th, 2024.
What a year it has been.
Yes. Well, different years for both of us, but that's normal because we're two different persons. How about we do a little recap?
Yeah, let's do that.
2024, if you had to summarize it all, sum it up, what stuck?
Well, a lot of things stuck. I think we went through many changes, mostly in the businesses, I'd say. But yeah, there's been many lessons. I'm not really the person that always does this like super elaborate recap of years, but I do like to have a little list of things that came on my path and lessons learned, etc. And for me, it's mostly about. I always use it as a moment to tie up all the loose ends. You know, like I really feel throughout the year you have a whole bunch of things that either need to be killed, need to be finalized. You know, like, and if you don't take the time for that, you end up with all these loose ends that are going to drive you absolutely nuts.
Bite you in the ass down the road.
Yeah. So I mostly use, this time of year for those kind of things. But yeah, like I wrote some things down. I think one of the most important lessons, it's more like an observation. Like friends come and go, you know, and I think when it comes to people you work with, you know, it's very important to, do business with people you want to live life with. And I think we got quite a nice group of people to do that with. And like we had like 2 weeks ago or so, we all came together at my place. I could really feel it, you know, like this is a nice group of people that we're gonna do big things with.
Mm-hmm.
So I cherish that one, definitely. Another thing, family is everything, you know, like from my mom helping out with my daughter as a babysitter every now and then, basically on a weekly basis. That's such a big help. And having a wife that supports you through everything. Yeah, I think you kind of need to go through some hard times to find out about that, you know. And it stuck with me.
Yeah. I think it's a beautiful realization for the end of the year. And of course, you could say that those are the obvious things, but...
it is obvious, but not too many. I mean, it became... Maybe if you asked me like a year ago, I would have said the same, but I wouldn't really feel it in my gut, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. I mean, you know, just to share some notes from my end for 2024. I mean, I think the do business with the people you want to live life with is a good one. For me, it was 2024 was a year of changes, both business-wise and personally. End of 2023, actually, I made the decision to leave the city that I had been living in for a long time and the team that I was...
How long did you live there, actually?
I lived there for a long time. I went there during my college days, somewhere in the middle of my college years. So that must have been already like since 2007 or something. Yeah, like late 2007 maybe. Yeah. So a lot of memories there, a lot of great times, relationships, friends, crazy amounts of fun. But and then of course a large overlap was building the agency that I co-founded and leaving that at the end of 2023 because I felt that I needed to do something differently, both in the people I surrounded myself with. As well as the place I lived and the things I would do or would strive for, and that doesn't mean that surrounding was that there was anything wrong with it. Not at all. I think it was great. I am super grateful for all those years. But it was just a gut feeling that kept lingering and grew stronger. Looking back, it has been a good decision. And then, of course, you will always see that things happen in your life that sort of, in terms of timing, they all come together, right? So, as you know, I had to say goodbye to my father, who passed away, unfortunately, earlier this year. And that was like 4 months after me making that change. That gave me some time to actually deal with that as well, with the family situation, and quite a few loose ends there also emotionally. It's been quite a complex history. You know, hindsight is always 20/20, but that coincided. So my sabbatical, basically me taking a breather, coincided with that big loss, with meeting my current girlfriend. Well, it was already a little bit before, but really going through that loss with my girlfriend, that also made me appreciate how much, to your point, someone in your corner is who's always there for you through thick and thin. So that made me appreciate that more. So, you know, life has a funny way of tying everything together. But in terms of timing, those three things were, you know, remarkable, because it gave me a lot of things back and sort of reinforced a lot of things in terms of the foundation that I had and felt underneath me. Then, of course, at a later stage, we teamed up again. Well, we never teamed up before formally, just as friends and brainstorm partners. But we were able to team up with me being at Noco and being part of the group you guys have been building here. So yeah, 2024 were a lot of changes now that I look back on it, but a lot of good ones, you know. And sure, there was some pain involved with the loss, and there's still some loose ends, still some stuff I'm trying to work through emotionally, but also simply just practical stuff that you need to take care of. But you know, to summarize it, I'm just very grateful for how all those things came together, and how they made me position myself the way I have positioned myself right now, going into 2025, with basically nothing but good stuff on the horizon. So I'm looking back, it's quite a blur, 2024, to be honest. And at the time went by so fast. But for some reason, all those ingredients, sad, good, bad, loss, saying goodbye, they all blended together into something that is super fertile, I would say. And that's a nice little bridge to the things that you have on your list for 2025. If you're done with your 2024 recap.
Well, there's one thing that I had to think about when you were telling this. There's this saying, something like, some years you build wealth, create wealth. Some years you build character. And just listening to everything that you went through this year, you basically did both.
Probably, yeah.
Because you cashed out on selling your company partly, and yeah, you had some hard times to go through. Yeah, it's a crazy one, 2024.
It is. Life's a tornado, and it spits you out exactly on the exact spot where you belong. Sometimes what they say. It's more of a Nietzschean approach to it. But yeah, I think, you know, when it's all said and done here in 2024, I'm just enormously grateful. So how was that for you? If I recall correctly, 2023, and you talked about this earlier, was a rough year. And then 2024 was a little bit more of a rebuilding year for you?
Yeah, because 2023, well, in hindsight, the market was just terrible that year, at least for the spaces that we operated in. Yeah, and we lost our largest client while we still had like eight months of revenue planned. So it was like a couple things that came together. I think, yeah, shit happens, you know. Like I was also talking to Kishan, business partner, Ela5. Like, could we have prevented this all? You know, there's quite a list of things, and I think, we've always been quite frugal with how we spend money. We always had like a big buffer. So yeah, I think that's the only thing, that saved us. You know, like because we had to, take some losses, and I do feel like we're back stronger than ever. But 2023, that went completely opposite. Yeah, it went completely different than planned, you know. But yeah, that's life, I guess.
But it also brought you here with all the new insights. You're probably going to, well, we're gearing up for in 2024 and sort of want to double down on in 2025 probably. And I speak a little bit from experience because we had a large client as well, responsible for a large part of the revenue, at least sort of a crucial part. I always had the luck, well, not entirely luck, we also did good work, but that they stuck around and even increased their business with us. I did always have this feeling, this itch where I was like,
It always lingers, man.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't. We probably should do something different. And we tried, and in part we succeeded. But it never felt 100% comfortable for me. So now looking back, for you on your situation with the client, did you ever did you have that little voice creeping in your mind during those years? Like,
Yeah, oftentimes I thought about that. I also discussed it internally quite often. And yeah, we took steps to mitigating the risk, you know. So I mean, like I said, we were always quite frugal on cash. We always had like 8-9 months in the bank to pay everyone. So I think we did that well, but this client just sucked up so much capacity that it also prevented us to diversify our portfolio of clients.
Exactly. That's the same thing that happened on my end.
Yeah. So, I think, looking back, we could have definitely done better. But I mean, that's all based on the lessons that you learned going through that.
Yeah.
So, I guess it was just a year. Basically, we're still like continuing building out our plans we've always had, and
but it also enabled accelerated learning, right?
Yeah, it is definitely. I think all the terror that we went through was just accelerated learning. Definitely. I think, looking at it from this point where we are now, we needed this because basically the grant scheme that we want to build out required us to be better at certain things, and I think getting punched in the face like pretty fucking hard that was just needed.
Yeah.
And now, with these lessons, I think we can continue building out our companies and way sharper. It was just needed. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, for 2024, I think. I already sort of shed some light on the things that were going on my end. And you said something interesting, like if I would have asked you what was important to you a year ago, like for example, a wife that supports you through thick and thin, you said that you would have probably gave the same answer a year ago, but now you sort of feel it in your bones, in your heart, in your fiber when you say it. And that's the same thing for me because, a solid foundation is extremely important. And rationally speaking, I would have probably also said this before, and I kind of knew it. But I've always been sort of a lone wolf because of the way I grew up. Not really a solid family structure or foundation to go home to. That's all has always been kind of the chip on my shoulder. So that sort of automatically turns you into a lone wolf, and it's also very tempting to this day still for me to retreat a little bit and go into my own cocoon. And what I've noticed through 2024 and being with the person I have been together with for quite some time now, is that it takes hard work for me to keep embracing that. Because I still feel sometimes when there's a little bit of a rough week or something, business-wise, life-wise, I have this urge to retreat a little bit and go back into my own cocoon and try to solve everything myself. That's just it's just almost hard-coded into my DNA almost.
Yeah, I get you. I mean, I have the exact same thing.
Yeah, you're kind of like that as well.
Some people need to get into their own head and solve things themselves. Some people need to bounce things around with other people. I'm one of the first group.
Yeah, well, I'm also one of the first group, but I don't think that it's the right thing for me. I always come to better results or better solutions or more resolve when I include other people that I know are good for me.
But isn't it like basically figuring things out in your own head, making sense of things, and then bounce things around with other people? I mean, that's more my like.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And I guess my pitfall is that I will do the former and not the latter.
Yeah.
So.
What is the reason that you bring this up?
To your point, like I kind of knew already, I know how to give all the right answers. I'm very good at that. But feeling it is something different. Truly feeling that is the truth or the best path for you is something different. And 2024 certainly instilled more of that.
Yeah, but isn't it also like, doesn't your business, like, it basically needs to almost die for you and your business partners to really get to know each other, And when you go through it and you're still together, that's when you know that you can really build on each other. And I think the same counts for your relationship in private life. Because you always, that's the case, that's important, but you don't know if it's going to be the case with the people you are with, because you basically need the proof. And that's why I think like suffering, hardship, dealing with really, really shitty situations is almost like you need these things for you really to understand it,
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of my relationship, like we had a super hard situation very early on, like 4 months in, 5 months in or something. With the loss that I got presented with, and it was such a way for us, unexpected way for us to bond so quickly, and we only grew stronger from it. So that it was like I wouldn't call it a test, but if there was a situation where we knew, and I knew in this case, like, oh wow, this person is really, really there for me. Especially for someone who's used to solving everything alone, that was quite a realization. Again, rationally, I could have answered this. Yes, of course, it's better to have someone in your corner, right? But feeling it at such a moment, in every fiber of your body, like, oh, I'm not alone in this. Like, I'm completely supported. You can't really rationalize that, right? It's something you just feel and experience, and then you know it. So that was a sort of a landmark moment for 2024 for me. Yeah, and then business-wise, we got off to a good start, and And that brings us, I think, now really to 2025. Again, it's December 28th, 2024. By the way, I don't never like this period, by the way. I like Christmas. I like spending time with family and friends, and
Yeah, it's nice.
yeah, it's nice. But work-wise, I don't really like it because I have this in-between feeling, like
Yeah.
you're not really doing anything. We are doing stuff. We're producing content and all of that stuff and preparing stuff and even some customer communication going on and whatnot. But it's, I don't know. I always have this feeling like we're at a standstill, which is completely in my head.
Yeah,
But I just don't like it. I just want it to be January and then we go full throttle.
I get it. I get the same. Although, like, I mean, you and I both work quite often on Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
Like these days, like Christmas was also like in the middle of the week. You know, a lot of people took the entire week off. New Year's Eve is the same, I think.
Right.
So I always feel like a week or 2 weeks like this just feel like one giant weekend for me to uninterruptedly work on some things that I just want to spend some time on, you know, like tying up loose ends, all that stuff. So in a way, I think I kind of like it. You know, like Christmas was quite calm for me. I had a dinner, and that was basically it. Yeah, and the other day I was just focusing on doing some work, and yeah, it's maybe a little bit too long. Could have been shorter.
Yeah, I don't know. I have this feeling. It just creeps. I know it's completely irrational because it's just another day. I can do whatever I want. I can spend the time the way I want to. But it's just there's something missing for me, and I just wish for it to be January.
Yeah, I mean, I got the same. It's just I really need to put my mind on the long weekend feeling.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I just get anxious of like everything standing still.
I'm
I just
anxious
want
as hell right now.
let's get going. You know, like
I
we've
just
already.
want the team together, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but
There's work to do.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, on the other hand, once it's the new year, everyone is going to be super fresh. Had some time off, you know, ready to get going.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
So when it becomes when it's January and you sit down on your at your desk, what will a typical week look like for you?
same as always, I guess. But I like having less predictable weeks. You know, like I like to just ride the wave of inspiration and do things that I want to do.
I thought you wanted to have more predictable weeks.
Well, that's what I'm getting to.
All right.
So, well, one thing that we really need to do is that because we basically set up all these systems and weekly and monthly motions, mostly focused on marketing, sales. Yeah, that's one thing I really don't want to skip a beat on next year. Make sure that we execute every motion week in, week out. And that involves some, content creation, also on my end, sales. And I mean, it's not the things that I'm ecstatic about to do, but it's just like the stuff that needs to be done. Because one of the things that I just hate is having zero predictability in incoming leads, incoming opportunities. And I think when you compare Noco with Eli 5, Noco already has achieved this in a certain way, although it's mostly with paid media.
Yes.
For Eli 5, that works way. That doesn't work at all, actually. And I think the only way towards a situation where you got a surplus of leads coming in is just like fix your distribution, like fix your personal brand, fix your company's brand, make sure that you create instead of consume, put things out there that are interesting for people. And yeah, it's a long game, you know. Like I don't think you're going to reap the benefits of it within now and 6 months or so. But yeah, it's the only way. And I think in the the era of AI that we're heading into, or are already into, it becomes more important than ever. You know, like for example, Peter Levels, who also said that I think a week ago or so, that basically because of this, he just started shit posting
Yeah.
like never before.
Human
you know?
authenticity becomes very scarce.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think this is, if you have not done it yet, I think this is the time to do that, because it's going to become harder and harder. Yeah. So yeah, that's on my list for next year, and yeah, I feel very confident about it, and yeah, with enough effort and just like staying like sharp about like the things that you want to create, and making sure that you engage with people and communities. I think it's just the key to getting some predictability in the inflow of opportunities.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I wrote some things down that also as a reminder to self. I know exactly which things I have to do. I probably always knew. The key is to find the calmness to do the same thing over and over again without getting distracted by the day-to-day struggles, incidents. Because for me, that is really, really key. I'm so easily distracted, you know, and that's a gift and a curse. I have plenty of ideas. I often see things that I want to react to immediately because I see something that can be improved or that can be leveraged. I'm very happy with that characteristic, because if I didn't have it, probably not a lot would happen or no needles would be moved. But it's also a curse because, again, you're easily distracted. And when you want to do these motions every week that you mentioned as well, it's very easy for me to get distracted from those because I see something that can be iterated or that I want to put back on the drawing board, or there is some day-to-day stuff that I really, really want to sink my teeth in because I can't bear the thought of that being done a certain way when I think it can be done in a better way. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, I got the same.
Find the calmness to do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, but I think there's a way to mitigate that. Because basically, I mean, for the content strategy that we've been talking about, the weekly, monthly motions are mostly focused on publishing, you know. So I think, I mean, I have the same. Sometimes I feel very inspired and I just want to use that inspiration to do something else than, what's on my list. I have that quite often. But
Yes.
I also, at the same time, have, burst of inspiration, and I can just like spend the entire day on creating content.
Yeah.
And I think, the only way to mitigate that, the point that you just addressed, is to create some sort of buffer. So you always have like plenty of stuff. You can have like, you can take a week off and get distracted all you want, you know.
Yeah, creating a buffer is definitely something that helps. With some of the content builders, I already have that. Like, for example, with the clips of that we distill from this podcast, and with another sort of long form video format that I have with Jar from Noco. So that certainly helps. With other content pillars, I have to get going and do some sprints the coming days and week. But yeah, buffering mitigates it. The only thing is that you shouldn't sort of get complacent with the buffer either.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I have a buffer. Okay, well, that means that I can do all kinds of other stuff for the coming week, and then your buffer is gone. I mean, it's yeah, but we're going to see how that works. I think that if we get it right for 85%, I'm speaking for me personal and for you, then we already made, gigantic steps as to where we come from.
Yeah.
And I'm very certain that certain content formats will not gain traction.
100%.
And then we just iterate them or scrap them and replace them.
Exactly.
Or maybe there's just 3 content formats that do very, very well, and the others we might scrap them or put them on a lower frequency and double down on the 2 or 3 that work really, really well.
Yeah. There's only one way to find out, right? I mean, it's like what
doing it.
Brian Armstrong said that, I think, like action produces information.
Yeah.
I like that one.
That's a good one.
And it's just like, we'll learn by doing. And
keeping each other accountable. We're doing that already quite well, I think. Especially you and me. And then we have, of course, Naomi, our marketing manager, who does that quite well also.
Yeah. I mean, in your defense.
No, please don't defend me.
We've been doing this week in, week out.
Yes.
We've been recording a podcast every week.
Yeah, it's episode 10 today, by the way.
So we're there. We made it.
Yeah, no, we didn't. We didn't make anything. That's just an imaginary threshold that we
made it.
Yeah, we made it. Okay,
we've made it.
That we read somewhere. Yeah, and it's also nice to say that we're going to we're still very motivated to do this, and we're going to improve our setup a little bit as well.
Yeah, and I'm also really looking forward to broadening this whole thing by talking to other people. Not that I'm getting tired of you. I enjoy the conversation.
I'm getting tired of you. No, I agree. I think that's for us a way to contribute more value. I did one, which was an internal one with Jelle from Noco, and that really was a completely different angle in terms of how the conversation went. And
it's nice.
You can do the same, and it's great. And we deliberately kept the setup very simple up until now because we just wanted
episode 10. Now we're getting serious.
Yeah, we just wanted to prove to ourselves, like, okay, we're going to do this every Saturday. And we did. I mean, again, it's very dangerous to say that because it's 10 episodes is nothing. But now it's time to put some more cameras in there and really turn it into a sort of a more professional workflow, which is something I look forward to as well. 2025, let's go.
Yeah. What else is on the list? Because
I think we both have something on our list which has to do with the US.
Yeah.
So speaking from a Noco perspective, we already have a lot of US customers, B2B SaaS and tech startups, scale-ups, some unicorns actually. And we like working for the US companies for reasons that we have shed some light on in previous episodes, but mostly it's because the inflow of capital is much, much greater in the US. We see more upside. Typically, those companies want to move fast, very fast. Risk is rewarded a little bit more.
I think in general, Noco is just valued way more in the US. I mean, you can already see that when dealing with European markets or like the US market. It's basically a no-brainer to move part of the operation, or maybe in the future even the entire operation, towards the US.
Yes,
it's not a weird idea.
No, and same goes for what you're doing at Eli 5 and probably also TypeJust maybe. Or is that more European focused?
Since TypeJust is focusing on regulatory change management, I think Europe is quite a good market for that.
I'll keep that in Europe then.
But still, I mean, we see it with investors, they're very hesitant in Europe, and they all want you to have like 10, 20 customers, and I'm like, if we got like 10, 20 customers, we don't need you guys.
No, we can just bootstrap it to...
all we need is to extend the runway, because sales are... TypeJust is having very long sales cycles. It is what it is. Although I have some ideas to shorten those. But yeah, I think Typejust will do good in Europe. But yeah, for ELA 5, I think the ratio was becoming a little bit less US, more Europe, due to some new opportunities that came in. But still, maybe best case scenario this year is becoming 50-50. You know, it's just crazy.
Yeah, and our plan is of course to spend some more time there as well in 2025. And meet with some friends over there in the various, tech hubs like New York, Austin, California. So I'm looking forward to that as well, to really maximize that trip or those trips, and work from there a little bit, and just vibe with some people there, and you just get a little bit more of a feel of how we can contribute value there. We already have quite an idea because we're doing it, but. Just it would be nice to spend some time there and have our finger on the pulse a little bit closer. So that is something I look forward to. LA can be quite nice in March already.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've been there many times. I always enjoyed it every time of the year.
Definitely, I built up quite a tan on the beach in Santa Monica when it was just 18 degrees Celsius. Sorry. And it was super, super pleasant. I was right there at the beach in an apartment. So not a bad place to stay.
No, definitely.
And to work from.
Yeah, and simultaneously, I also see it as a nice hedge. You know, like there's a. I mean, we've talked about this many times. We are seeing like some kind of shift happening in the US, and we see basically the opposite happening in Europe.
Yeah,
where I feel like the US is. Yeah, basically setting themselves up for some heavy acceleration, and I feel like in the EU we're like, we're basically doubling down on, degrowth, more regulation. I just feel it in my gut.
Yeah, it's getting good. Quite depressing. It's really it seems to be a deliberate degrowth agenda of sorts. And in the US, you see techno-optimism, basically. That's the word for it.
Yeah, because there is tech.
There is tech.
To be optimistic about.
There is tech, and but there's also optimism.
Yeah.
And that is something that has been in the culture, I think, from the start, because that whole country is built on unbridled, perpetual optimism.
I always felt that in the Netherlands as well. And
we certainly have a history of it.
Yeah.
In terms of innovation and exploring. But that seems to be dimmed quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that will be reinvigorated at some point, but I'm not going to wait for that.
No, exactly. I think it's always good to look ahead. I've been dealing with this feeling for multiple years. I think ever since COVID. I really started to see this thing, and I think 2025. I feel that is going to be a year where, the whole, the ratio between the US and Europe is gonna widen
even more.
Yeah,
even more.
And you also feel it, like there's all these like things in Europe, and to a certain degree, these things also happen in the US, but it's just becoming a bit tiring, like all these new regulations on crypto, for example. There's this new travel rule that exchanges need to basically share your information regarding your crypto address, your personal details, with I think the tax administration. There's all these like petty things, like you're not allowed to drive into a city center with a car that's older than 15 years. I bought this old car a couple of years ago because I used to have this Tesla, but it was just like I was going nuts.
Wasn't your thing?
wasn't my thing. I mean, I really loved that car, but it was just like it was more often at the garage than I was driving in it, and I'm exaggerating. But still, I was just getting tired of it. So I bought this like old BMW, and if I would have bought a diesel, which I didn't, because I found out early enough, thank God. If I would have bought a diesel, I couldn't get a parking permit in the city, for example.
Mhm.
Like all these, I understand that, you know, I understand because I often have the when I'm cycling through town, I also have when you're in like driving past a long row of taxis who are all driving diesels. I also don't like that.
No,
you know, like
I
the
agree.
fumes and
The problem here is that there's always a couple of good measures, but when it's part of an agenda that is inherently degrowth and suppressing, then you can't really support it anymore, right?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And it's all just, I mean, from like us not being able to use Sora, for example, you know, like the video, the AI generation tool from OpenAI.
Yeah. Same goes, by the way, for the very awesome new Google video generation, which blows.
Is that the same? We cannot use that either.
No, I just checked it before we started recording.
Really?
And it's not available in your country.
Yeah, okay. These things.
I am not sure if Google is still rolling it out, but I'm fairly sure that it's just not allowed right now.
Okay.
But these are all symptoms of a much more bigger.
No,
bigger issue.
exactly. It's not that I want to pinpoint it's not that I solely want to pinpoint this whole car thing in the city, you know, because to a certain degree, I also hate all these taxis with diesels, and I get it. It's just like one of the many things that becomes like a little bit pity, you know, like with the whole like what did Thierry Breton left us, you know, like
it's soft.
We cannot access Google Maps anymore through the Google search engine, like all this like pity shit, and it's just absolutely fucking tiring.
Yeah, I think what you're describing is the soft despotism that Alexis de Tocqueville, the famous French philosopher, wrote about, the soft despotism. I should have wrote the quote down, but it's such a good way of describing this very slow creep of bureaucracy, just totally numbing the common man. You know, just numbing. It's like constant soft pounding until someone gets completely numbed by it and not able to resist it anymore. It's like that's soft despotism. It's a great, if you Google soft despotism by de Tocqueville, then you'll find it quite quickly. It's this constant numbing of the soul with little rules, like whether it's traffic or tax, and it just keeps creeping, and people don't understand that they keep perpetuating it by voting for it because they're not honest in what they convey to you in the election cycles, and it's just it seems to be a completely defunct system, which has very little to do with the original demos that the old Greek had, the original form of democracy, which was a completely different type of system than what we would call democracy right now. Anyway,
yeah, so
we're going to the US.
It's a good reason to hatch yourself a little bit, and yeah.
Yeah, there was also someone who said in a comment on, because we post these clips on TikTok as well, he said like, well, you know, all of the reasons that you mentioned, because we talked about this before, make that the US is maybe great if you're sort of in the top 10%, but a very bad place to live for the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that is necessarily true. I think 10% is overdoing it. But I do think that you're missing the bigger picture when you see that, because it's not so much that sort of free market capitalism and risk taking is being is the culprit here for things going south. It's socialist policies. It's the non-meritocratic policies that actually make it a bad place to live. So, I mean, the evidence is quite obvious when you look across Western Europe, right? I mean, all those policies brought nothing but economic hardship, less safety, due to unchecked mass immigration, for example. Just the fact.
Yeah, it's another thing you cannot.
Go to Paris or
You cannot say anything about that.
No, but go to Paris, you know, and I'm quite comfortable saying it because people who know us just a little bit know that our lives, our sort of walks of life have been filled with all kinds of diversity by any metric or standard that you could think of. So, and this goes for most people who are fed up with it. It's just, but you know, you get labeled, right? You get labeled, and everything is hate speech nowadays.
Yeah,
you mentioned this before.
Yeah.
So but it's a very effective way to kill any constructive debate. You know, it's very easy for me to say, Wes, you're a bigot. No, but I mean, when the public hears that and they're uninformed, then that's how they will look at you. Yeah. Maybe you have a very nuanced opinion about something. You did your research. You have your own observations. No, Wes, you're a bigot. You're spewing hate speech.
Yeah, the most annoying part of it, I find, like I couldn't care less about the whole DEI thing, and the company here is, I think, more diverse than anyone.
Always has been.
Anyone shouting DEI. So it's just, I don't know. I find it but I think this is the same whether you talk about the US or Europe. It's across both continents.
Oh yeah,
it's the exact same situation. Maybe I do feel like there's a little opening now to actually speak your mind about things with less risk of being cancelled. But still, we're not there yet. So
it does seem to have reached its peak in the US when it comes to the whole woke narrative and the DEI narrative. You see a lot of people. You know, money always latches on, right? You know, when it's also such a opportunistic thing, but I guess we'll take it, right? But the money always latches on. So now that the big corporations see that the whole DEI woke narratives has sort of ran its course a little bit, now they're pulling all of that back, slowly but surely. And then, we're supposed to trust them again, that they won't censor us in the next cycle or something. It's so opportunistic, but that's fine, I guess. You know, I'll take it. But I think in the US you see a shift, and but it will also be very tough on Europe. I think that Europe is sort of lagging behind a couple of years, and especially now that the US is going to go more national focused, also in terms of trade and tariffs and all of that. I think that Europe will be in a very tough spot the coming years, but it's the only way to also here have a sort of a massive realization that we might want to do things a little bit differently.
Well, I mean, you have like plenty of signs that, signs of hope in Europe. I mean, also with Peter Levels creating that what is it, like a forum? More like a board where people can place suggestions on what they would like to improve in Europe. Yeah,
for the European acceleration movement. I think those are all good signs. Those are all good signs for awareness. I'm not, again, you can debate whether that is the way to go, but it doesn't matter. I'm not hating
it's
on
something.
it. It's something.
It's someone with some clout trying to do the right thing, trying to push.
100% believe in his good intentions and the people who support that movement, and it's fine. Because it brings awareness, and maybe it leads to other solutions, like where people say, "Well, okay, this is great, but we need to go back to the nation states and sort of propagate our values and our goals and our ambitions from there."
Yeah,
but that's fine.
I couldn't care less as long as it works. And what we're currently doing is clearly not working.
No, it has not.
Yeah,
it has not. And this is the only reason why we're having these conversations in our podcast episodes, because we don't want to have those conversations. We love the Netherlands. We love where we come from. We love Europe. We love European culture. I said it before. We don't want to have these conversations, but they're necessary. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
But it's also tricky, because how do you discuss these things in a proper way? Like it feels it's such a polarized topic.
It is, man. Even now, speaking on it, I feel a bit reluctant because...
Yeah, I got the same. Even in my group of friends, I got people on both sides, and it's you're trying to understand each other, but I do feel like it's becoming heated. Not as heated as the whole vaccination thing during COVID, but it is getting quite heated. To a certain degree, I also feel like a lot of people still have their eyes closed to certain perspectives, I'd say. And one of the things that I found interesting is I think 85 or close to 90% of all Dutch people would have voted for Harris. And regardless of what outcome you, me, or anyone else prefers, that ratio is funny to me.
It is quite funny. What can we say about it? It is funny and worrying. I think, the answer is quite simple, is that mainstream media is heavily biased.
Yeah, 100%.
And this probably also goes for all the institutions.
Yeah.
Media as an institution, universities. This is not a new idea. In order to change that, you have to do what do they say? They call it a long march through the institutions, because politics is just a cycle. If you really want to bring a little bit of balance back in the public debate, then that means you have to bring some balance back into the institutions. And if all those institutions are populated by people who have certain ideology, I'm not even going to go into which ideology, but if there's a very one-sided ideology in all the institutions that shape a culture and shape a public debate, then there's no balance there. Yeah,
but that's my point. Regardless what you think is good or bad, it's just I don't think it's good that ratio is so disbalanced.
It's probably never. That's sort of a heuristic, right? It's probably when one narrative is pushed almost exclusively, and when you counter that narrative, you are sort of labeled as a, what? Then you can probably tell there's something not entirely right. Then there's probably some work to do.
Yeah.
If you support free speech, of course. If you don't, then you're perfectly fine with how it is. And mind you, there's a lot of people who are very much fine with speech being censored.
Yeah, as long as it's in their benefit.
I wouldn't underestimate that.
But you're creating a weapon that can also be used against you. And but what I liked about one thing that Elon Musk said was he wants the both outer 10% of the spectrum, so both left and right, to be equally pissed off.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like we live in a world like that at all, but it does feel like there's some light at the end of the tunnel. It does feel like the pendulum is swinging back a little bit more now. But we're not there yet, and I think I just hope that what is happening in the US right now will lead to something good in the next years. And I hope that it forces Europe to take a good, hard look at itself and to reevaluate like how this thing should work and if it should actually exist. Like there's some hard questions to answer, I think. And I think if we don't push Europe into doing that, and I think us as a people, we have to do that, it's just going to get bigger and bigger, this problem that we're having. We basically went into this rant about Europe.
Well, I don't think it's a rant. I want to add something to this, and this is a little bit of criticism that someone gave to us in a comment on a clip we posted on our TikTok channel. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's a guy or a girl, but they said, why don't you just pinpoint the issues in terms of what's wrong with Europe and stop dancing around the actual issues. And that kind of sat with me a little bit because, and I want to hear your thoughts about it. So we started this podcast basically linked to our companies, which are in the tech realm, the SaaS realm. We talk about entrepreneurship, about, the struggle, learning as you go.
Mm-hmm.
That is kind of our realm, right? And then when you sort of dive into that a little bit more, you also get to the environment that you're trying to build those things on. Mm-hmm. And we are in Europe, so obviously that leads to Europe. And then you come to topics like a lack of innovation, regulatory pressure, etc. And I do feel that we are still in the process of finding our framework of things to talk about, because we don't want to over politicize this. We want to keep it, we want to keep it business focused. But I also feel that I'm speaking for myself, that I'm still self-censoring.
I am too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We talk about Europe quite in a generic way. We sort of pinpoint the issues, but we don't really dive deep into what we see as the fundamental problems or even causes maybe of the hardships that we observe.
Yeah.
How far do you think that person has a point?
I think to a certain degree, yes. But also, we get sucked into these conversations in quite a natural way. And I think, just to be completely honest, I think business-wise, it's probably better to shut up about it. And that's one of the things that actually pushes me to talk about it. Because it's absolutely ridiculous that you cannot speak your mind about these things without worrying about your business, about your person being cancelled. Isn't that isn't that the thing that is fundamentally wrong here? We can talk. You and I cannot fix Europe, but yeah, we can talk about the nitty-gritty things of what needs to be, what is going wrong, and what needs to be fixed. And I think if we really dive into it a little bit more. And have the guts to speak out a little bit more, we probably are, coming to some really proper points. Yeah,
maybe it will shut some doors. You're right. Yeah, but maybe it will open some doors as well.
I think so too. Yeah. Long term, definitely.
It's not without risk, but
no. But to this person's point, I think just the fact that we are talking about it, I already find that. Yeah, to be completely honest, I find that quite risky already, which is insane.
It's already a step for us.
That's already a fundamental thing that needs to be fixed. And I know, there's so many people that come in here, whether it's employees or clients, when you get to know them, all of a sudden you figure out, we think quite the same about things, but we didn't have the guts to talk about it. Yes. That's absolutely insane.
Yes, it is, and it's something to think about over the coming time, to see how we can mold this into something that that gives us a little bit, that makes us feel a little bit more free to speak our minds. I mean, I don't really have a rebuttal to that person. I think that person's kind of right.
Yeah,
and it's up to us. I mean, you nailed it. You said we naturally roll into these conversations. We start talking about the realm that we are interested in, and that sort of we started this podcast for.
Well, we talked about why we want to hedge and have some boots on the ground in the US.
Yeah. So you naturally roll into these conversations, but it feels like we are hitting this imaginary wall that we put there ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I think for the new year, I think we could push it a little bit further. And just keep things constructive and well researched. But someone has to do it, man. There is literally no one.
Yeah. I mean, I've been saying this for as long as I've been building a company. Before that, maybe I was early 20s. Maybe I still had quite some interest in politics. But then I just learned, okay, dude, just get to work, man.
It's
Build a
completely
business.
useless. Nobody's coming to save you.
I have been 100% apolitical. Like when I went on city trips with my friends, you know, like they all started talking about politics. I just zoned out, man. I couldn't care less. But I think it's becoming a little bit of the elephant in the room. And I think I've been confronted with how things really are during COVID. And that was just like, yeah, to put it mildly, I think what happened during those years was just utterly insane. And then you start thinking, like, I mean, I went to Spain a lot during COVID, and there it was even worse. It's like my dad has a house close to the beach, and there's like a park in front of his house. This is insane, by the way, but there's no one there. It's like middle of absolute nowhere, and there's people walking around with the face mask, being scared of like police checking them in the park, where they're probably one of 5 people walking.
Spain was crazy,
and all these things that happened, and this is one example. There's so many other things that we've seen firsthand. There's so many other things that we've seen via Twitter. That kind of opened my eyes, and I felt, I don't know, it scared me. And I think ever since, I never was able to go back to this apolitical person that I always was. And yeah, do I want to talk about all these things? I mean, topics like the unchecked immigration, to like whether the EU needs to exist or needs to be nation states. I don't know, but what I do like is the approach that Levels is taking with this suggestions board, where people can actually discuss certain things, certain policies, certain regulations, certain systems of Europe. And when I went through it, there's quite some interesting things in there, you know. Like, and not all these topics are for me to discuss, because I'm also not an expert in all these things. But I am an expert in building my own company, because who's going to take that from me? You know, that's what I did. I experienced the things that I experienced. Yeah. And I saw many things along the way that are just utterly insane. And from taxes to regulations, things that are just like throttling your growth, and also taking away opportunities from the Netherlands' own citizens due to certain policies. Oh, that's very recent. And I like to talk about those things. But yeah, the bigger picture, I can nag about it a lot, and to a certain degree, I can have some impact on certain things. But yeah, it's also maybe it's quite a large thing, right? And I think we need people from all walks of life. We need people from all kinds of domains. We need blue collar people. We need white collar people, all to maybe shift gears a little bit and take a good look at like, hey, how is this thing working for me? And what could be done better? And I feel like for the last decades, we've all, as a people, I've seen it in myself, I've seen it around me. Yeah, I don't care about politics. Oh yeah, we got complacent very much because it went relatively well economically. Yeah. Okay. But that has now we have a price to pay. Oh yeah, and we haven't seen nothing yet. That price will become quite hefty, is my prediction for the coming years. It has to get worse before it gets better. Well, it's getting worse. So that's one thing that's for sure. We're one step closer to it becoming better. But yeah, like back to the whole point that initiated this conversation. Boots on the ground in the US. I think it's a good move for both Noco, Ela5, especially with the fact that majority of revenue of like the group of companies is outside of Europe. I think it opens up a lot of possibilities in terms of commercial possibilities, but also operations wise. As you know, like in Europe, not to go back to the whole bashing Europe and its policies again, but it's becoming quite hard to work with freelancers. There's different policies in other countries, and I think when the majority of revenue in Europe is outside of Europe, it's not a bad idea to just like at least consider the option of going elsewhere, and maybe partly, maybe with a complete business. Time will tell. But
don't say that too loud, because they will be knocking on our doors already.
Well, I mean, we still do everything according to the rules.
We always did.
But
if I regret something, it's not being a little bit more naughty throughout my career. But we always did everything by the books and by the rules. Paid all the taxes, everything.
Yeah.
But
and also at the same time, I also feel a little bit. Do I want to hire less Dutchies or Europeans just because it becomes harder to hire them in a flexible way? I also feel a little bit like if I would double down on that, like many companies are doing, hiring like basically 100% remote. Feels a little bit like being a traitor to your own people as well.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way.
I want to hire European people, and I want to hire Dutchies. But then, it's becoming harder, both due to taxes, due to regulations. Sometimes it's impossible to fire someone. I mean, you and I both dealt with these cases. I've paid enormous amounts of money to get rid of rotten apples, and could I have prevented it? Maybe. I do everything I can to prevent this, but it still happens.
Yeah.
And I mean, luckily, like I said earlier, this conversation, we always been very frugal with how we spend our money. We always had a big buffer, so I could carry, like, I at one time I had to pay like north of 50K to basically, fire someone, which is insane. It's just insane.
Yeah, it's not easy.
People can go, like, companies go bankrupt because of these kind of things, especially when you look at SMEs, like small businesses.
Yeah, and especially
how do you
when
carry
you have to
these kind of things?
Especially when you have to compete with, for example, agencies that are in different countries who are not subject to those regulations. It's very hard.
Yeah.
Okay. It's getting a little bit of a sad song. Listen. Just to close this on a more positive note. Yes, all those concerns I believe are valid, and we will keep talking about them. But on the other hand, there's also so much to gain still, even in this climate, even when things are not ideal, so to speak, for running a business. There's still enormous amounts of success to be generated, and that's what we will keep doing, of course. But yes, we are, of course, looking at ways to do even better and to create more value, because of the end of the day, that's what it's all about, to create more value for yourself, your families, your loved ones, and the people who work for you, because they also often have themselves and families to take care of and the futures to build. So that is what we will focus on 2025. And I think it's time to wrap it up, buddy.
Okay.
Thanks for doing these 10 episodes with me here in 2024. Yeah, man, it was fun, and we're only just getting started. So new setup next year, some external guests, and we'll try to do a little bit better every time. So for those who are listening and watching, thank you.
Well. And see you next year.
Happy New Year.